It is I, Tentus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the second edition of AD&D. Where we last left off, we were talking about time. We're going to finish up time and start talking about movement today. So when it comes to time, we were talking about calendars. We talked about the basics. Next, after the basics, we need cycles. And there are some basic cycles. The seasons you'll encounter, solstices, phases of the moon, things like this that you may want to keep track of in the course of your events. You could even add a little few more fantastical events that happen at regular intervals and add it into your calendar. After that, you want to look to major religions, holidays, religious events. Most major religions at least have one major holy day and plenty of other little events that might exist. If there's particularly a major religion within your society that you're building, you might want to add them into this calendar. Various religions, if you have more than one, each one will have their own occurrences of various religious holidays and events that you may want to keep track of. This is especially important if your characters might be faithful to that religion. It might connect them up to it. You can also look to, fantastical events that might happen in the course of your world. Not only does this make your world feel more alive, it makes it feel more mystical, more magical. If some kind of strange fantastical event happens every year on this date that your players could easily observe or travel to there to have some kind of connection to whatever supernatural amazing thing happens, like a floating castle appearing for a day and then disappearing. Now you can also add special events. Special events take a lot of forms. For example, a local official having their wedding is a special event. On a local side, a calendar will have this on it. There also could be regular military events that occur. That would be more on a kingdom side. Even a period of mourning for certain officials might be something that will be added into a calendar. This means you're planning out the death of the person ahead of time, but it's a way that you can add this onto your calendar and say oh, this official will die here in the course of the year. Your players will see that there's a mourning period for this. Setting up a calendar, setting up all these elements is time-consuming and difficult. But there are some ways you can make it easier. If you get yourself a general idea on the various holidays, events, dates that you're going to be adding to here before you know the actual dates, it gives you a heads up that I want to make sure these things are added in. I can then just organize my thoughts and put them into the calendar just a little easier because I would have began thinking about it in a way. Using my basic what I want to do to make the world feel more alive, and then figuring out where to put it, what order to put it in. Now it is very important to note that time can be a game balancer for you. The fact is, in AD&D, everybody in a way gets their own experience. It might come into a situation where one person is leveling faster than another. Time is a factor that you can easily add in without breaking or stretching any rules that might mitigate a little bit of this. For those that are leveling up, training might be a way to basically allow them to go slower. That they're training to level up, while in the meantime, this time-consuming activity, the other player can go off on an adventure of their own to earn the difference between it to help them get closer together when it comes to leveling. Same can be done with research that other character might need, or even healing if they get injured. These are three factors you can use to easily mitigate it. Another way of looking at it is the length of the adventure. You might want to send them on different adventures. The one here with more experience who's going farther ahead, send him on one long adventure. Long time, going to take up a lot of time, big things to do. The other guy, the one that's lagging behind, send him on a couple of smaller, simpler, easier missions. The two of them will both earn experience, but the guy who did more than one might end up earning more experience than the one over here with the bigger mission. That's the point of it, to make it that the experience evens out more. You're also going to want to sort of lag into the time-consuming activities for this character here and ignore a lot of those here, making it that it's much more efficient for this person to have their little sessions than this person. So they will get more than one done. Base surface, this does look unfair, but the DM is doing this so that the both of them are even and fair. Now let's move on and talk about movement. Now I'm not going to talk about just basically walking around. We talked about that in the Player's Handbook. The movements I'm talking about are more fantastical. This could be riding on a mount, riding in a wagon, sailing on a ship, on a flying mount as they soar across the sky. These are the kind of movements I will be talking about over this week and a few more. Think of it this way. Each of your movements, these are going to be the common ones I will be going over. And each of these movements has their own hazards and risks. Just as walking around has their own hazards and risks. You could easily get lost in the wilderness. Your ship could sink, run aground on shoals. These type of things will be risks that could occur to you while you're traveling, regardless of the method that you're actually using to travel. Getting around is risky. Now, there are a number of factors affecting you when you're on some kind of mount and how far and how fast it will travel. The first thing, of course, is your mount's own movement rate. That's going to be a big factor. Second, the terrain it's traveling on. The fact is, each mount that you could have, horse, donkey, camel, will have its own movement rank. Once you put it on a terrain, that will affect that movement rank. A mountain is harder to travel on than a road. Both affect movement rating. Assume under normal conditions, a creature can move a number of miles per day equal to their movement rating. When determining the movement rate you're going to be traveling at, you do have to also remember, most of the time, a rider will have the same amount of time walking their horse as traveling over on the course of a long day. An unencumbered man without any equipment could even travel as fast as a horse with a lot of stuff, with a rider and equipment on it. So that's another factor about this. It's maybe not the extra movement you're looking for having a mount. It's the carrying of everything. That might be the big thing. So that your armor, your weapons, when you're not using them, could easily be strapped to the animal and traveling with that you'll be going at the same rate still. It's just that you don't have to be carrying that and slow down itself. You could travel at your normal speed. Now you can spur on your mount to go at faster speeds. If you want to, you can have your mount move double the speed it normally would in the course of a day. If it does so, it has to make a save versus death. If it's successful, animal's unaffected. It can move fine. If it fails, the animal becomes lame and spent. It can't move for the rest of the day, and thereafter it can only move at its normal movement rate unless it gets a full day of rest in to recover itself. If you are successful, for each consecutive day you continue to push this animal to double its speed, you will receive a -1 cumulative to that save, making it harder and harder as the farther you go on to push it to double its speed. Overland movement can be pushed to even farther, to triple the speed, but the penalties are even steeper. That save versus death, if they make it, they're still unaffected. But if they fail now, they actually die. The animal exhausts itself to too much and it falls over dead. It receives -3 to this save. And even if it makes it, even if it races for 3 times its normal movement for a day, it can't move after that. It's spent. It has to rest. Can't be ridden at all. You have to let it rest for 1d3 days to recover from this intense push. It's also important to know you never know when the creature is going to collapse. If you've pushed it too far and it's failed to save, it won't just collapse right away. It will push on for a certain period of time, and your dungeon master will determine when that becomes too much and it collapses. Only they will know. You're never going to know when it's going to happen if it actually fails. But that's it for today. So I finished talking about time with finished talking about your calendar, discussing a few more factors in building your calendar, and a little bit more about why time is important to keep, with evening out your player's experience. Then I began to talk about special types of movement, with, of course, movement on a mount, and talking about how that works. In the next episode, I'm going to continue talking about the care of your animal. Moving on and talking about, of course, movement on vehicles. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Just for the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can go check out my Patreon, link description below. There's some great rewards there, helps to grow and improve the channel and the empire. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.